The first time Adira laid eyes on the human, she thought him nothing more than a courteous stranger. A tall, unassuming figure with light brown hair, bright hazel eyes, and a calm, patient demeanor that stood out amid the chaos of the Galactic trading hub. He seemed ordinary. Yet the galaxy had taught her never to judge at face value. Adira was the youngest envoy of the Zephyr Collective, a species renowned for their intelligence and elegance. The Zephyr had dominated interstellar trade for centuries, their networks stretching across hundreds of systems. But on one isolated station, orbiting the desert world of Krylos 7, she was about to learn that the universe had surprises in store, even for someone as meticulous as herself. She first met him at the Krylos Station Market, a sprawling labyrinth of vendors from countless species. His name was Evan Hallstrom, a human merchant known across a few sectors for supplying rare resources. When she approached his stall, a small, unassuming booth filled with containers of luminescent minerals, he greeted her with a smile, offering a sample of a glowing green ore without expecting payment. "You'll need this for your mission, I think," he said casually, his tone almost as if he were handing a cup of tea rather than a mineral capable of stabilizing hypercore reactors. Adira frowned. "That is generous. You do not know me, yet you offer this freely?" Evan shrugged. "I know enough to see it will be useful. Besides, everyone could use a little help sometimes." The Zephyr in her always analyzed motives. Generosity, in their culture, was strategic. Even altruism had a hidden agenda. Adira left the stall wary but impressed. Humans were notoriously unpredictable, and Evan was proving the point. Chapter 1: A Small Favor. The mission had begun 2 weeks earlier. Adira was tasked with securing a shipment of cryoenzymes from Krylos 7's laboratories, a volatile commodity, strictly controlled. Zephyr protocol dictated precision and efficiency, minimal interaction, exact calculations, no deviations. But human unpredictability soon disrupted her plans. Evan appeared again, this time inside the lab complex. She had been negotiating with the facility's administrator when the door slid open, and he stood there, holding a small device. "This will protect your shipment from temperature fluctuations," he said, offering it to her. Adira stiffened. "You again?" Evan's smile was patient. "You look like you could use it. Consider it a gift." Despite herself, Adira accepted. The device functioned flawlessly, and her shipment arrived intact. Still, the Zephyr in her was suspicious. Humans often underestimated the subtle webs of interstellar commerce, but Evan's aid seemed sincere, almost innocent. By the third encounter, she realized he was shadowing her across the station. She confronted him as she exited a transport tube. "Why do you follow me?" she demanded, voice sharp. Evan raised his hands. "I'm not following you. I'm making sure you're safe. Krylos Station isn't the friendliest place for someone alone." Adira narrowed her eyes. "You presume much." "I presume that anyone doing important work deserves a little backup. Nothing more." And that was when Adira began to sense a pattern. He helped not for gain, not for influence, but simply because he saw need and responded. It was alien to her experience. Chapter 2: The Unexpected Crisis. 3 days later, the station was hit by a massive technical failure. Krylos 7's energy grid overloaded, plunging the sector into darkness. Warning sirens echoed through the corridors, panic spreading like wildfire. Adira's mission became impossible. The labs lost power, security systems failed, and hostile scavengers began targeting valuable cargo. Her shipment of cryoenzymes was now at severe risk. It was Evan who appeared again, carrying a portable energy stabilizer and a small team of human engineers. "Looks like you could use a hand," he said almost casually. Adira hesitated. Trusting a human was risky, The Zephyr Code forbade reliance on outsiders for critical missions. But survival demanded pragmatism. Together, they stabilized the lab's energy grid and protected the shipment from looters. By the end of the crisis, she had no doubt. Humans, Evan in particular, could act decisively when it mattered most. Yet still, she wondered what he wanted in return. Humans always wanted something, right? Chapter 3. The First Lesson. Over the following week, Evan continued to assist her. He helped her navigate Krylos 7's bureaucracies, smoothed negotiations, and even intervened when hostile species attempted to block her transit. Each time, he refused any payment, declining favors and gifts. "Why?" she asked one evening, as they shared a meal in a quiet observation lounge overlooking the desert planet. Evan chuckled. "Why what? Why help me? You've gained nothing. In my culture, that is suspicious." He tilted his head. "Maybe it's human culture to help when you can. Maybe it's just empathy." Adira studied him. Zephyr philosophy emphasized logic and cause and effect. There was always a purpose. Humans were chaotic, but Evan's behavior seemed guided by something else entirely: conviction. Chapter 4. Humanity Proves Itself. The true test came when a pirate fleet appeared in orbit above Krylos 7, intending to plunder both the station and the labs. The Zephyr had no military assets nearby. The station's security was outmatched. Adira prepared to evacuate the shipment and herself, following protocol. But Evan would not hear of it. "You can't just leave everything to chance," he said firmly. "We'll fight together." Adira tried to argue. "You are risking your life unnecessarily. Humans do not belong in interstellar warfare of this scale." "You might think that," he replied, "but humans have a way of making the impossible possible." He organized the station's defenses, rallying human engineers and even some Zephyr staff willing to cooperate. Using clever tactics and improvised technology, they coordinated a defense that would have been unthinkable to any other species. Adira watched, stunned, as humans, led by Evan, repelled the pirates. Their ingenuity, fearlessness, and relentless determination overwhelmed the attackers. What she had assumed was generosity had become heroism. The Zephyr Collective's calculations had never accounted for this. Raw determination, unbound by rigid rules, could turn the tide of battle. Chapter 5. Breaking the Barrier. After the battle, Adira and Evan found themselves alone in the station's observation deck. Debris from the skirmish floated past the windows, and alarms still blared faintly in the distance. "You're different," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "I've underestimated your species, underestimated you." Evan smiled softly. "You're not the first. Humans, do you ever stop to calculate every risk? Every outcome?" He shook his head. "We try, but sometimes we just act. Because if we don't, no one else will." Adira's mind raced. She had seen countless species in the galaxy, calculating, powerful, intelligent, but none with this combination of courage and unpredictability. Humanity, she realized, had a strength Zephyr logic could not quantify. Chapter 6. Recognition. Word of the defense spread rapidly through Krylos 7's networks. The station authorities praised the human-led operation, awarding Evan recognition he politely declined. Adira, meanwhile, filed her mission report with Zephyr headquarters, noting the unprecedented human capability she had witnessed. Her report included detailed accounts of Evan's actions, describing not only his strategic brilliance, but his moral compass. The response from the Zephyr Council was cautious but intrigued. "Humans are chaotic, yet they demonstrate qualities we have rarely observed: curiosity, courage, and empathy." Adira, who had once viewed him as a simple merchant, realized she had been wrong. Evan's generosity had been the first sign, but humanity's true nature revealed itself under pressure: adaptive, resourceful, and unyielding. Chapter 7. Beyond Krylos. With the station secured, Adira and Evan prepared to part ways. She had learned a profound lesson. Humans were not merely generous, they were catalysts for change, capable of achieving the impossible. "You've changed how I see the galaxy," she admitted. "Not just you, but your people." Evan shrugged. "Sometimes you need a little faith to see the full picture." They shook hands, a gesture simple yet filled with understanding. Adira returned to her starship, carrying both her shipment and a renewed perspective on life beyond the Zephyr's calculations. In the months that followed, she continued her diplomatic missions with a different mindset. Human colonies, she discovered, thrived not through perfection or rigid structure, but through resilience, ingenuity, and compassion. She found herself marveling at human communities across systems, people who defied expectations, who solved crises by sheer determination, and who inspired other species to rise beyond their limits. Adira reported back repeatedly to the Zephyr Council, advocating for stronger collaboration with humanity. Each report emphasized not only what humans could do, but why, because they acted with conviction, with courage, and sometimes simply because it was the right thing to do. Chapter 8. A Galactic Revelation. Years later, Adira returned to Krylos 7, seeking Evan once more. She found him at the same market, surrounded by his signature minerals. He greeted her with that same calm smile, unchanged by time. "You've come far," he said, as if no time had passed. "And you've reminded the galaxy what courage looks like," she replied. They spoke long into the night, not as envoy and merchant, but as equals. Two beings from different species who had learned to see the galaxy through each other's eyes. Adira had begun her career seeing humans as simple, unpredictable, and occasionally foolish. She left Krylos 7 with a new understanding. Humanity was not just a species among many. It was a force of its own, capable of extraordinary acts, capable of defying expectations, capable of shaping the future of the stars. Evan had been generous, but generosity was only the surface. Beneath it was humanity itself, audacious, unyielding, and extraordinary. Epilogue. Legacy of Courage. Long after Adira returned to Zephyr headquarters, her reports shaped policy, alliances, and strategies. Human ingenuity became a cornerstone of interstellar cooperation. Other species, initially skeptical, began to see humans in a new light, as partners, not merely outsiders. And every time she remembered Krylos 7, she thought of one man, standing quietly in a crowded market, offering help without expectation. That single act had changed her perception, and ultimately, the galaxy itself. She had thought he was generous, but humanity proved otherwise. Humanity proved unstoppable. The stars had found a new ally, and the galaxy would never forget it. Chapter 9. The Final Test. Months after the Krylos 7 incident, Adira was sent to negotiate a treaty with the Varic Dominion, a militaristic species known for conquering weaker star systems. She expected the usual standoff, carefully calculating every move. But as she arrived at the Dominion's heavily fortified capital, she discovered an unexpected problem. A sudden rebellion had erupted within the Dominion itself, threatening to topple their government. The situation was chaotic. Zephyr diplomacy could not reach the right channels in time. Adira realized she needed help, and instinctively, she thought of one person. She sent a discreet message to Evan. Within hours, a small human team arrived. Not soldiers, not diplomats, just skilled individuals with a talent for strategy, improvisation, and courage. Adira watched as humans coordinated with the Dominion rebels, stabilizing key systems and averting a total collapse. They worked quickly, decisively, and with a level of adaptability no Zephyr protocol could predict. When the rebellion finally subsided, the Dominion's leaders were stunned. They had faced countless adversaries, yet never had a species, let alone a handful of humans, demonstrate such resourcefulness. Adira realized in that moment that what she had seen on Krylos 7 was no anomaly. Humanity did not rely on sheer numbers, brute force, or strict strategy. They relied on audacity, ingenuity, and the willingness to act when others hesitated. Chapter 10: Recognition Across the Galaxy. News of the Krylos 7 defense and the Dominion intervention spread across interstellar channels. Humans became renowned not just for trade, exploration, or curiosity, but for their extraordinary ability to face impossible odds. Adira returned to Zephyr headquarters as a changed envoy. She presented her reports to the Council, emphasizing that humanity was more than a partner. It was a paradigm shift in what the galaxy considered possible. "You claim humans are exceptional," the Council murmured. "Exceptional but chaotic." Adira replied with quiet confidence. "They are chaotic, yes. But within that chaos lies courage, innovation, and moral clarity. They do what must be done even when logic and protocol fail. That is why they succeed where others falter." The Council debated, but ultimately, Adira's testimony shaped policy. Zephyr trade networks opened more freely to humans. Allied species requested human involvement in conflict resolution, disaster relief, and scientific projects. Humanity's reputation as the galaxy's unpredictable but invaluable asset was cemented. Chapter 11: A Personal Revelation. Despite her success, Adira returned to Krylos 7 to find Evan. The market was quieter now, the chaos of past events replaced by routine. He stood among his glowing minerals, his calm smile unchanged. "You've done well," he said. "Not just on Krylos 7, but across systems." Adira hesitated. You changed my understanding of the galaxy, of people, of what is possible." Evan's eyes twinkled. "Sometimes, all it takes is one person or one species to show what's possible." For the first time, Adira allowed herself to relax. She realized that what had begun as cautious admiration for one human's generosity had grown into a profound recognition. Humanity's strength lay not only in courage or ingenuity, but in the capacity to inspire others. She understood, too, that the galaxy's future would not be dictated by rigid logic alone, but by the unpredictable brilliance of humans willing to act, to create, and to fight for what was right. Chapter 12: Humanity's Mark. Years passed. Adira traveled to the far reaches of the galaxy, witnessing humans in every corner, settlers establishing thriving colonies on barren worlds, engineers repairing broken space stations under impossible conditions, diplomats preventing wars that had seemed inevitable. Every encounter reinforced her conviction. Humanity was extraordinary. She returned again to Krylos 7, not for duty, but for reflection. Watching Evan teach younger humans about trade, ethics, and courage, she felt a deep sense of admiration and gratitude. The man who had seemed merely generous on that first day had revealed the essence of his species: unyielding, audacious, compassionate, and unstoppable. Adira stood at the observation deck overlooking the desert, thinking of the countless lives humans had touched and the countless systems they had changed. She knew the galaxy had underestimated them once, but it would never again. Generosity was just the beginning, she whispered to herself. Humanity is so much more. And as the twin suns of Krylos 7 set behind the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet. Adira understood that the galaxy had gained something remarkable, not a weapon, not a strategy, but hope. Hope embodied in a species that refused to be predictable, refused to yield, and refused to accept limits. Humanity had proven itself not by what it took, but by what it gave, and by what it was willing to risk to protect others. For the first time in her career, Adira smiled without caution. The galaxy was vast, filled with challenges, but as long as humans were in it, there was always a chance for the impossible to become reality. And somewhere in the market below, Evan smiled too, unaware that the simple acts of generosity he had shown were now part of a legacy that would echo across the stars for generations.